Rich and Mike Show, Flagler County's hometown sports show. Here are your hosts, Rich Carroll and Mike Licio.
Yes, it's another episode of the Rich and Mike Sports Show. Good Saturday morning, Flagler County. And a good Saturday morning to you, Mike Licio.
Hello, Flagler County. Rich, it's the penultimate week of the regular season. I guess technically it's not because there's that extra bye week, but for us it's the penultimate week of the high school football season.
Yeah, it's been a fun one, right? It's been a fun season with these two teams. It's been a season of streaks, really. I was looking at this after the Potato Bowl. Obviously, the season starts and everybody's pumped up about the Potato Bowl. Matanzas, FPC, who's going to win the Crosstown Showdown. And both teams went in a bit of a different direction after the Potato Bowl because you had the Pirates go on a 3-game winning streak after that game, after the tough loss, because obviously you lose that game. It's a tough game to lose. And we talked about it before, that Potato Bowl, it could really maybe propel you to greater heights to win that game, but maybe a bit of a different effect here where the Pirates, Matanzas, they go on a 3-game winning streak after the Potato Bowl. The Bulldogs actually go on a 3-game losing streak after the Potato Bowl. So that's kind of where these teams have been. And now the Pirates, after their win last night, they beat Menendez 14-0. They're on another 3-game winning streak. So that's 2 3-game winning streaks this year, and that's pretty awesome. They had a 2-game losing streak. That Seabreeze is a game we think about often that they probably could have won, but they followed that up with a loss to Mainland, and now 3 games in a row. And the Bulldogs, they go on that 3-game losing streak after the Potato Bowl, and they kind of turn things around a little bit, and we see their big win against Yulee last week. Tough night last night, however, as we make the trip to Port Orange and go to see Spruce Creek, one of the top teams in the area. We know it's the first game these two teams play against each other after the controversial playoff game last year that everybody knows about. What down is it? What down is it? Who knows? Well, Mike knew. Mike clearly knew if you go back and check the broadcast, but
yeah,
the officials
a few people
didn't know.
have been made aware of that, I would say.
Yeah, the officials didn't know. So, and FPC knocked out of the playoffs. Spruce Creek moves on. But so it was the first matchup after that amazing game. So we make the trip. It's our second FPC road game this year, as a matter of fact. We've had, 4 FPC games, Mike? 2 at home, 2 on the road. It's just the way it's worked out. So it was our last road game, maybe, unless we get playoffs here. We'll talk about that, too, in a little bit, what the possibilities are. But we get out to Port Orange, Mike, and you say it all the time. Sometimes the result on the field isn't what we're looking for, but what do you say? We're undefeated at the dinner table, right?
We're undefeated at the dinner table. And so, yes, and if you want to count the Potato Bowl, I know we're talking about FPC standalone games, 2 home and 2 road games. Technically, with the Potato Bowl, 3 of the 5 FPC games that we did this year so far have been road games. So FPC has been on the road. I don't know if Matanzas counts for us as a road game, but it counts for them as a road game. So I'm taking it here. But, yeah, what a dinner tonight. Thank you to you and Sharon for opening my eyes and, more importantly, my stomach to a wonderful establishment that we went to tonight down in Port Orange.
Yeah, we went to Hanwoo, a Korean barbecue, and that's our favorite thing. We love Korean barbecue and hot pot. This restaurant doesn't have the hot pot, but they really have premium meats, and it's basically all you can eat and all you can cook, right? With the ribeye steak and the hanger steak and the short ribs and spicy pork belly. We can go on and on and on, but a little ramen on the side. It was fantastic. So I think you approve your first day over at the Korean barbecue.
There's no question about it that I completely and totally approve, and very convenient to the stadium. Actually, when we went to Mount Dora, Jeremiah's where we went, was actually, we got kind of turned around when we left there, but it was actually pretty close to Mount Dora as well. So we've been able to find places on the road, in the school's backyards, and that trend continued tonight. It started, I think, a couple years ago. We got on this run when we went to DeLand a couple years ago, that we got on this great food run, and it's just carried on for the last couple seasons. What doesn't matter where we've been. We've been to Live Oak, we've been to Mount Dora, we've been to Port Orange, we've been to Daytona Beach, and every time we just keep swinging for the fences.
Yeah, we find some good stuff, and that's Sharon and I. That's our favorite thing is the Korean barbecue and hot pot, and she was really pumped up to share that with you, and it was a great time. And we're in the meat coma, heading over to the Nest, right? They call it the Nest as well. Where there was a lot. You know what? I need to sample that. I'm going to get that. I'll get the broadcast audio and I should have had that tonight.
There'll be plenty of opportunities for it.
Do me a favor, put that in the Monday Sports, okay? We have to let people hear the caca.
I will find one
from the PA announcer. But that was fun. They were nice there. We were in the stands, so it was a little uncomfortable, but we were able to make it work. And the game, Mike. So let's get to the game. The Bulldogs, early on, they were competing with Spruce Creek, but that Spruce Creek ground attack was just unstoppable from start to finish.
Yeah, Spruce Creek ended up running for over 300 yards in the game, including over 200 in the first half. But it was just efficiency for Spruce Creek. PJ Miller their quarterback might have had the worst passing game he's ever had. He threw. He didn't look like the guy who threw for 271 yards against FPC in the playoffs last year. For sure, he struggled. I think he finished 3 for 11 for about 18 yards on the night, but he was able to just pick up yards at will in the game. And like I said, Spruce Creek, let me see, I'm pulling the number up here. They ended up with 323 yards rushing, of which Miller, he had 9 carries for 72 yards in the second half, and he finished with 16 carries for 123 yards. And so he did it with his feet. But they were mixing in running backs. Keenan Nephew had 2 touchdowns. Elijah Tillman was effective for him. DJ Cully, who was playing his first varsity game, had 5 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown. John Riley, another running back who hadn't touched the ball all season, he had a big game for them as well. Closing in, I think, let's see here. Riley finished with 82 yards rushing on 8 carries. So they had the running game going the entire night, and they averaged almost 8 yards a carry for the game. So it was a very big night on the ground for them, and they just finished drives. FPC was able to move the ball pretty well early, but once they stalled in the second quarter, things kind of got away from the offense at that point.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, FPC not too shabby on the ground either, and it was just another spectacular performance from the quarterback, Ladarius Simmons. Not so much through the air. Both teams unable to really throw the football. I think both had the mentality last night of we're not going to really have to throw the football in this game. Why make a mistake, especially on the Spruce Creek side? I mean, there was no reason at all to put the ball in the air. FPC they had to at the end because they were trailing by multiple scores. You put a couple up and you turn over some interceptions, but that's not all on Simmons. He's just trying to get his team back in the game. But on the ground, the Bulldogs were spectacular, and Darius Simmons made a ton of plays with his legs. He was a lot of fun to watch. He's been fun to watch all year. And I think the turning point of this game, the Bulldogs were down by a score, and I'm not sure why Simmons was not in the game, but on 3rd and about 19, he's taken out of the game. I'm not sure if there was an injury or an equipment malfunction, but he's taken out of the game. The backup quarterback is brought in, and he promptly fumbles the ball. Turnover on your end of the field to Spruce Creek, already up a score, and that really opened the door for them to take a 2-score lead there. With getting the ball back first in the second half, that was the turning point of the game for me. And it was just unfortunate because it was the only, at least the Bulldogs did not really commit a lot of penalties in this game. Toward the end, we had some, unfortunate personal fouls and things like that. But you just look at it. Simmons was Superman out there. He was leaping over defenders. He looked great. Ajay and Harris were also making plays, but a lot of credit to Simmons. He was a warrior out there, and it's a shame that when the game flipped, when you had the turning point of the game, the ball was not in his hands. Because in my opinion, you watch Simmons last night, You wanted the ball in his hands every single play because that was your best chance to win.
And Simmons finished with 24 carries for 118 yards, which you got to realize, though, that 118 yards also includes 3 sacks where he lost a total of 32 yards. So if you take out the sacks, just the plays where he was expected to run on, just on running plays, you're talking 21 carries and close to 150 yards for Simmons last night. It was his third 100-yard game of the season. Darwin Harris had 7 carries for 66 yards in the first half, just 2 in the second half, 9 for 72 yards. So they were able to run the ball effectively, but you're right. At that point, it was 14-7. Even if they punt, they don't make it on third down and they punt, Tegan Paulo is going to flip the field, and maybe you go into the locker room 14-7, but Cully scores a touchdown on the next play. FPC gets a stop on the opening drive of the third quarter, but the offense, it's tough when you're a run-heavy team like FPC and you go against a line like Spruce Creek's where they have Division I prospects on the line, including Chadwick Cannon, the Duke commit, who will be graduating in December, which for me and probably for FPC as well is 2 months too late. But, it's a tough challenge against that Spruce Creek defense. They have been able to stop a lot of teams on the ground this year. I mean, FPC ran for 138 yards in the first half. And in the second half, they had another 53 yards. So they were able to run the ball. But, what do I call next month? I call it Throwvember. And last night, the passing game just wasn't, you're right. Simmons did all he could. He threw 3 picks. He threw 2 picks, and one was on a Hail Mary. That was the third pick. But, he's just trying to make a play. And the receivers struggled to get open. That back end of the Spruce Creek defense played really well last night. Cameron Giddens had 3 interceptions last night. It seemed like every time they went to throw the ball, Giddens was there. In fact, the Bulldogs as a team completed 8 passes, and Giddens caught 3. And two of the 5 passes that were caught in the second half were caught by Giddens from Simmons. So it was a tough night for the passing game. And ultimately, that's what I think you couldn't – when you go back to the keys of the game, that they needed to stay on schedule, they were getting off schedule, and then they weren't able to convert those third downs.
And you just got to give Spruce Creek credit. They're just a better team. And you got that feeling early in the game where FPC punts the ball. And I don't remember if it was Oxendine or Nephew. They fair catch at the 1-yard line. Huge mistake on special teams. You let that ball go into the end zone for a touchback. But on Spruce Creek's first possession, they get a fair catch on their own 1. So they have to start the drive on their own 1-yard line. And they promptly go 99 yards in 12 plays for a touchdown. And I think they were all running plays. So, yeah, you just have to give Spruce Creek credit.
Yes, you do. And congratulations to Coach Andy Price, who they commemorated his 200th win, but my numbers say he's got more than 200. I've got him at 205. So I wonder if they were commemorating a win from earlier in the season, or maybe my numbers are just off. But, Andy Price is the longest tenured coach in the Flagler-Volusia area, and you see why. And I think they have a tall order in 2 weeks against DeLand. I think they'll win against Gulf Coast next week, which will get them to 8-1, and then they'll probably lose to DeLand because they're already down 2 touchdowns against DeLand, and you don't want to get down 2 touchdowns against DeLand when they go to make up that game. But this is a team that is probably at least going to the second round and maybe has a chance to go to the third round in the playoffs. And you saw tonight that even when they couldn't get the ball going, the passing game going, the defense made plays, and they were able. PJ Miller, who's made a lot of big plays with his arm, made plays with his feet all night, and that was the difference in the game.
It sure was. So Spruce Creek, they improved to 7-1. FPC falls to 3-6. And before we get to Matanzas here, Mike, what does this mean to you as far as playoff possibilities for the Bulldogs?
So as far as playoff possibilities, I think for FPC, they were in 10th place already before the loss. I think that even with a win next week against Fleming Island, I don't think they have a chance to, even with a win against Fleming Island and the strength of schedule they have, because they came in with, out of 460 schools, they came in with the 37th toughest schedule in the entire state. I just don't think they have enough to get back into. I expect they'll drop to 10th or 11th, and they'll have to get to 7th to make the playoffs, because Creekside, who's currently 9th, even though they're 9th, they are district champions, so they're automatically in, which means that the 8th spot is not getting into the playoffs. So the FPC would have a long way to go to get back into the playoffs. I do think with a win against Fleming Island next week, they could probably get back into the FIT. I think they're going to fall just out of it. They'll probably be in that 15 to 20 range, and the top 16 get in. And I think with a win against Fleming Island next week, they could get back into the FIT. But for the actual playoffs, I don't think that's going to be possible this year for FPC. So for the third time, it looks most likely that for the third time in the last 9 years, they're going to miss the playoffs.
And they do have Fleming Island next week on Halloween, Friday, October 31st. That's the WNZF game of the week. Fleming Island at FPC. Don't miss it here on WNZF. Much happier result for the Matanzas Pirates across town as they defeat one of their biggest rivals, the Menendez Falcons. We'll talk about that when we come back after this.
Thank you so much for recommending us to your family and friends. When you need a 30, 60, or 90-minute massage, it's real easy to book your appointment online. MassageByNatalie.org. MassageByNatalie.org.
Strap in, Duval. The Jaguars are gearing up to face the Los Angeles Chargers Sunday, November 16th for our annual Salute to Service game. Join us as we honor and celebrate the brave men and women of our military all game long. Secure your seats now and be a part of the action by visiting jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000. Let's stand together, Duval.
Hey, the Matanzas Pirates last night, Mike, 14-0, a shutout against Menendez. Coach Forrest, I'm sure, was very happy. And we had a correspondent there, didn't we?
Yes, we did. And I think I have to point out to Coach Forrest that when this correspondent is at Matanzas games, they are 3-0 this season. So I'm going to point that out to Coach Forrest.
So he's going to be there next week, right? He's coming to town?
We've had a conversation, but, it's my son, Michael, who is a student at St. Augustine High School and plays on the lacrosse team. But the Yellow Jackets have a big one against one of the top teams in the state, Mandarin, with one of the top recruits in the country, Bryson Wright. And I think he's probably going to be at St. Augustine on Thursday night.
So the Pirates, they're going to have to find another rabbit's foot for Thursday night. And that's an interesting note to make, Mike, that the Pirates game coming up this week, that's going to be on a Thursday night.
Correct. That was supposed to be a road game down in Palm Bay. Instead, it'll be on Friday night at 7. Now, instead, it'll be played on Thursday at 6:30 p.m. at the Ship. So if you have no plans on Thursday and you're not going to the St. Augustine Mandarin game, come on down to the Ship. I'm going to be there. I mean, that'd be a good reason to go, right?
Oh yeah, Pirates.
You might even
versus
see what you're
Pirates.
sharing.
Come on, yeah. We might try to make an appearance on Thursday. I'm pumped up about that game. I'm pumped up about the Pirates this season, as I mentioned earlier in the show. 2 3-game winning streaks this year. As it's like a sandwich. You have the 2-game losing streak in between there, but you have the 2 3-game winning streaks right now. That's what they're on. So if they can defeat Palm Bay on Thursday, it'll be a 4-game winning streak, and they would improve to an impressive 7-3 record after losing their first game of the season. So I'll kind of step aside. You have your son there, Mike the Third. He was at the game. He's your correspondent, and I'll let you guys kind of tell us what happened.
Much better result than last time, right, Michael? Because last time you covered a Matanzas game for us, they lost 49-9, and we kind of called the segment, "What the hell happened?" Well, I don't know if we want to call it that tonight, but, tell us about what you saw from Matanzas tonight at the Ship.
Well, first of all, what I didn't see as last night on the counter was some leftover barbecue. So I'm kind of disappointed about that. But no, the Pirates looked really good last night. Wiley Connor had a great game with Darian Baker, stud as always.
Best athlete in the county.
Oh, by far. Cole Walker. He looked good. He threw 2 interceptions. One of them was kind of his fault, just not a great read. The other one was sort of a chuck up downfield that happened to get picked off. Defense stood solid all game. I mean, they didn't really let up many big plays. I think they only let up one play of 30-plus yards. So I love the analogy that Coach Forrest has made ever since that Mount Dora game, where he said every game since then has been a playoff game of sorts.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, that's a great point. Every game's a playoff, and that's the mentality you have to have because Mike, you were talking a couple of weeks ago. You said, well, I'm not so sure after this Seabreeze loss that the playoffs are still in the cards, but they were able to turn it around, and that's part of that mentality. When you lose a game like that against Seabreeze, now every game kind of does become a playoff game because you're not going to get in unless you win.
And when you have to play that kind of game, sometimes we've seen what wins in the playoffs is time of possession and controlling the ball. Seemed like Matanzas was able to do that pretty well tonight, Michael.
Oh, yeah. In the fourth quarter, they got the ball back with about 8:30 left and were able to chew it down on a 12-play drive to about 1:10 left before eventually punting the ball back to Menendez. And I mean, being up 14-0, 1:10 is just not gonna cut it. So
they also had a long drive on their first possession of the third quarter as well.
Oh yeah, they drove down the field, little incremental drive, ended up taking about 7.5 minutes, resulted in a touchdown that kind of put the game away. And you could see that all night that they just played their game, played their pace, and it just worked out in their favor.
And Mike the third, when they're going on these long drives, and that's obviously winning football when you're able to keep the ball away from the other team, is it the running game that's getting it done? Is it Wiley Connor in the backfield? Is Cole Walker, hitting these great passes to Larawan and his weapons? Who is the star of the show tonight during these long drives?
Truly not one star of this show. He would give it to Wiley Connor, first down, get about 3 yards, then hit his receivers, who have been consistent all year. He hits them for their small gains, and eventually they'll get to like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. Again, hand it to Wiley Connor. Occasionally, if it was a pass play, he would take off, but he can get it done with his legs. He really doesn't have a problem running the ball. And overall, no real one impact player. But, I mean,
Baker.
Ladarian Baker.
Sorry, I always get them mixed up because they're two stars with very similar names.
Similar names and great athletes, right? Two of the best athletes in the county.
And that's what we've seen all year from Matanzas. They have weapons. They spread the ball around. They get those guys involved. And it sounds like it was more of the same tonight. You caught up with Coach Forrest after the game as well, and we have a little interview here.
Coach Forrest, great win for the Pirates tonight, 14-0. How do you feel about tonight's performance from your guys?
I mean, very proud of them. Defense, shutout, obviously speaks for itself. But offensively, just moving the ball down the field in short bursts. It wasn't really big plays. It was just sticking to our game plan, getting first downs, and just moving the ball methodically down the field. And, I think we had a 95-play drive for 18 plays. And then to be able to kind of do 4-minute offense when we got the ball back with 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and pretty much run it down under a minute. I mean, just very, very proud of our and to be -2 in the turnover. I mean, Pedro was +2 in the turnover margin, and we still won 14-0. So great performance by our defense, great performance by our offense. Obviously, we got some things we got to clean up, but it's better to clean up things after a win than the alternative.
Now, defense, another shutout this week. What do you say about them that hasn't already been said this week or this year?
I think it's just their grit. They're a tough bunch. They've been through the ups and downs, of our program, going 4-6, 7-4, 5-5, just kind of going through those ebbs and flows and just really finding a way to perform. We talk about in our program now about finding ways to win, and we don't talk about finding ways to lose. And tonight, even though we made some mistakes, our kids basically just found ways to win. Every play, whether it was 1 yard here, whether it was 1 yard there, whether it was a stop to put them in 4th and 2, just little things that won the game. And that's what's awesome. I don't think, Pedro didn't do anything to lose. They played, and I thought they tried, they executed their game plan. I thought they gave us some things that gave us some trouble. I think offensively, they got an athletic quarterback. It moved around. They got some big bodies on the offensive line. Our guys just went out and won. And that, I think, is what I'm most proud of is just their ability to go out and just find a way to win a game.
Now, looking ahead to next Thursday, you got Palm Bay, 6-3. Does the approach change at all going into next week's game?
No, because it's round 4. We've been in playoff mode since Mount Dora. So we won round 1. We won round 2, found a way to win round 3. And we got to find a way to win round 4 next week. So that's the mentality our guys have been in. It's been in a playoff, scenario since we lost to Mainland. We felt like we had a good performance in Mainland and just didn't have the second half that we were looking for. And so whenever you don't win the district, you got to find a way to get a wild card. So that was the kind of mentality we had. Is playoffs start this week, boys, and we found a way to beat Mount Dora. We found a way to beat Bellevue in the slop, and we found a way to beat a good Pedro team who was 8th in their region. We found a way to beat a good Pedro team tonight. Last question for you: Club Dub tonight? Oh yeah, it's going to be popping. It's going to be lit. Club Dub is in 3 weeks in a row. We're going to enjoy that one, and we're going to try to make sure Club Dub's open next Thursday as well. Yes,
appreciate your time, Coach.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, buddy. Good job, man.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. A happy Coach Forrest. A great job on the post-game interview from Mike the Third. And, yeah, I think the main thing I come away from this victory for the Pirates, Mike and Mike, is that we've seen Menendez kind of wreck the Pirates season in the past. This has been a game that we remember it was the difference between a home playoff game and having to travel to play Lincoln and Tallahassee. So, we've seen Menendez wreck a Matanzas season, and that didn't happen this year, and that has to make them very happy.
I don't know. We had a great dinner that night, too.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that all I ever think about? Maybe.
Just keep in mind, we've got about a minute and a half left here. So final thoughts real quick on the Pirates.
Keep climbing.
Anything from Mike the Third?
They got to just keep doing what they're doing, and they'll keep it back up.
Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of what the coach said at the end. He said, my guys, they just went out and won a game. And that's what Mike III was kind of saying when he's like, well, there wasn't any particular superstar, but they just got it done when they needed to in certain spots, and that's how you win 14-0. All right, a little time here for the NFL picks real quick. Mike, you gained a game on me last week. You were 2-1. I was 1-2. I stand at 12-9 on the season. You are 8-13, so you are climbing on up this week. I have San Francisco plus 1.5 over Houston, Denver minus 3.5 over Dallas, and Pittsburgh plus 2.5 over Green Bay. That's going to be a fun game. What you got?
I think we're mirroring each other. I've got Green Bay minus 2.5 over Pittsburgh. I like the 49ers against Houston, and I like the Saints to lose by – I like Tampa minus 3.5 against the Saints.
I like that game. I think I might have missed something not picking that game. That's a good pick. I'm liking your picks a little bit more than I am liking my own heading into the weekend, but I know I will enjoy it. You know what, this Sunday, I love this Sunday because it's the first Sunday where I have some NFL football to watch and some New York Knicks basketball. I just love that. You watch the 1 o'clock games, then at 6 o'clock I have some NBA, so I'm pumped up for it. Flagler County, have a great weekend. FPC next Friday. Don't miss it. Great weekend, Flagler County. That's another episode of the Rich and Mike Sports Show.